It's been a while, but the Hornets finally get a win. We'll discuss that. Plus, we play Chance or Not a Chance with our friend Nata Edwards. All today on Locked On Hornets.
You're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It always makes me happy to see Nata Edwards subconsciously bob his head to the Locked On intro because it's been fire for a long time now, and that is our buddy Nata Edwards. Find him on Twitter at Nata the Scribe. He left us for the Ion College Basketball podcast where he's doing some great stuff.
Pretty good upgrade.
Yeah, it's solid. It's solid. Talking about the other form of hoops in this country. He went to the dark side, the college basketball side. But now he's back to talk about some Charlotte Hornets. Nata, how are you doing, man?
Man, look, I'm happy we get to discuss a win. I didn't think we were going to discuss a win. I thought they were probably going to disappoint me yet again. But here we are. We're discussing a win.
It would have been really disappointing considering Paolo Banchero was out, but we are discussing a win. I'm Walker Mail. You can find me on Twitter at Walker Mail. That's Doug Branson. Not only is he on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH, but you can check out his work at everyhornetsboxscore.com. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. You can learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. So thanks for making us your first listen, by the way. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast. It is a win. Thank goodness, man. 8-game losing streak. That's rough no matter how you slice it. There were a couple of games they lost in overtime. There were a few that were some blowouts. Losses that came from a bunch of different varieties. You had injuries. LaMelo Ball comes back. Dennis Smith Jr. then exits. We had Terry Rozier finally come back, but then Gordon Hayward, when he came back, Gordon Hayward was injured and left that second half against Chicago. We don't have Cody Martin. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks because of the arthroscopic knee surgery. So lots to certainly be down on with the Hornets, but they got the win yesterday. They beat the Magic 112-105. Main takeaway from you, Nata, after their win to move to 4-11 on the season.
Quite honestly, it's just the effect, the LaMelo Ball effect. LaMelo getting those easy buckets for everybody else plus himself. That's the superstar effect. Games like that are when your superstar gets you an extra 6 or 8 points on simple stuff that you don't necessarily get. That's a game they win. That's a game they lose a week ago. This is a game they win solely because LaMelo Ball was there and Paolo Banchero wasn't. But at the same time, the marginal plays that he makes on the margins to get you those extra buckets were the big thing that I took away from last night.
Yeah,
Doug,
I mean, honestly,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they should have won this game, I think, by 20. If they had just shot, the 3-point shot at some, reasonable clip, they should have won this game by 20. But instead, they allow Orlando back in the game. But it was LaMelo Ball's shot making in the fourth quarter, hitting those 2 threes that sort of kept them afloat. He also had a back screen at the beginning of the fourth quarter. You don't see LaMelo back screening very much, but got McDaniels a wide open look underneath the basket. Yeah, I mean, some of these passes, 9 assists on the game, some of these passes that he's making, we just simply haven't seen those kind of passes from any of the guards this season. LaMelo, the over-the-top pass, just getting Mason Plumlee open looks, getting Nick Richards open looks. Once LaMelo shakes off the rust and gets his shot back from 3, this offense, I think, has the potential to be dangerous once again. It'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, LaMelo, for me, it's fun because he already has such a big impact coming back from injury, and I think it's still clearly bothering him, his ankle. I don't know if you guys get that, but for me...
he was messing, if you watch the broadcast, they mentioned it, he was messing with it on the sideline.
So I didn't even hear Eric Collins. I had it on mute, and that was because we had to watch something else, right?
Wow.
So sorry to Eric Collins. Yeah, no, it was. Sorry, Eric. It was just because my girlfriend, she needed to listen to something this entire time that I was watching on my iPad. So I apologize to the great one, Eric Collins. But yeah, I think defensively, and go ahead. You wanted to say something else?
Questions.
I mean, it's like, hey, everyone, please use the promo codes that we're about to talk about so we can buy Walker some headphones.
I was about to say, yeah. You got to have wireless headphones, man. You make good money now.
I just was, man, you know how it is sometimes when it's a little too far out of reach and you just don't want to get up off of the couch. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to watch the game because that's fine. Can we talk about the Hornets? I mean, we don't have much time here. Is that okay?
Fine.
Is that fine? Goodness gracious. LaMelo, man, steering it back. LaMelo, for me, I think you can catch it defensively and offensively. I mean, what was it? 15 3-point attempts in this game, just letting it fly. I think that's because there still is some hesitance for LaMelo to drive while it's a little ginger on that ankle, possibly. He's still playing hard. Like, he's still, once he passes it, and then he hard cuts, right? Like, there are still some instances where he has that LaMelo Ball-esque type of hustle nonstop offensively, which is probably my favorite part of LaMelo's game. It's almost like the childlike love of the game where he's just like, boom, 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 pass it, boom, cut immediately. Like, we saw it on one of those 3-point attempts. But I think defensively, too, even for LaMelo, I mean, again, even for LaMelo, he's getting handsy still. Like, he's not moving his feet. I think when people are driving, he's not sliding his feet well enough. And I think you saw it on the bowl Euro step. Like, he jumped for it, So when he's gathering here, LaMelo's obviously quick enough to slide his feet to get in front of Bol, despite the Euro step that everybody fell in love with. But instead, LaMelo stands there. Yes, it's transition. He's a Bol. I know it's tough. But then he jumps for it instead of sliding his feet where he could just stay in front of Bol at that time. I still think there is some of that. He gambled again on a pass, and then, that led to an open shot. I think I'm interested when this thing is 100%, the impact that LaMelo has there, because it's no coincidence that the Hornets finally get to like 112 a couple times when LaMelo's here, right? He clearly makes everybody better. There are a few things I want to see when his ankle is fully 100%.
I mean, yeah, totally. I think it's getting back into transition off that 3 in the fourth quarter that he had. It's celebrating a 3 while Wagner runs down the floor and gets a dunk. There's the carries, which one of them was probably BS, but another one was pretty clearly a carry. But also Mark Davis, quit calling carries. Like, I mean, what are you, Johnny Naismith? Like, get out of here. Like, we don't need to, let's let people dribble the basketball.
That's part of the emphasis they have on it this year, and LaMelo has to get used to that. It's his second game with the new emphasis.
But here's what I'm interested in, Nata. Clifford after the game, props to Ashley for asking about, in as soft as way as possible, asking about LaMelo and some of the issues he had in this game, and Clifford dodges it. Very careful about what he messages in public about LaMelo Ball. Pretty wise on Clifford's part, I think, to put it on hold. But how long can he put that on hold?
He's going to have to put that on hold for at least 10 games. Like, the thing that I just keep coming back to with Cliff is, and him talking to Woj, I want to say back in August, was you don't want to be wrong, because being wrong is basically, if they're wrong, that's credibility for that coaching staff. So I'm much more of, I'm about wait and see and everything else like that. But at the same point, like, I'm not sure we're going to be able to credibly evaluate LaMelo and how he's doing until he's 100%. And that may not be for another, 3-4 weeks. Like, this is going to take some time, especially when he starts telling people, yeah, I would be out longer if it wasn't for DSJ being out, and basically saying, hey, I'm still not 100% yet. So he's putting all this out there to let you guys know, yo, I'm still in beta for this season. I'm not at the full gold release yet.
So there's a couple things before we finish up the first segment. One, the question that Ashley asked to Steve Clifford about letting him be himself, it's interesting because I don't know if I viewed it as Steve Clifford as dodging it. I almost viewed Steve Clifford as just saying, well, I want him to be himself. If you look back, at least my body language that I read from him, it was like, yeah, I really want him to be himself. I don't want to constrain him. I don't want to do anything like that. I would like for him to be LaMelo Ball because he's such a gifted player. And it was interesting. That's kind of what I got from Steve Clifford when he answered that question. The other thing is, if, it's funny, here we are talking about LaMelo not being 100% and the ankle still bothering him. Since this guy is your franchise player, I think a possible popular take, even though it might not be that way because of all the injuries with this team, but the popular take might be to protect your franchise player at all costs, which would mean don't play him right now if he is not really ready to go. But man, lots of pressure on the Hornets to put him out there. Now, because of their poor messaging, I think at the beginning when they didn't say that he might be out 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, but now they're getting him out there. And my question is, if he's not ready, then I don't want him to play, but that does run counter to a lot of other Hornets fans' takes of wanting LaMelo to play because we got frustrated with the word close. That became taboo around Hornets fandom. Don't tell me that he's close anymore. So the messaging, the actual injury, where does the problem mostly reside? At the end of the day, the most important thing is to protect LaMelo. And if he's out there on a bum ankle, I don't want that. Now, if he needs to go through this process, cool, right? Like, I don't know if this is truly a situation where he's not ready to go. But I do know that the Hornets had a lot of pressure, even based off of the messaging, to put him out there because we got so frustrated with the timing of it.
Yeah, but that was Ray Stantz basically choosing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. They did this to themselves. Had they just said this 4 to 6 weeks, he's back when he's back. And mind you, had they done that with Cody Martin, because remember, they were saying, oh, Cody's close too. Steve, like, a lot of the messaging has been bad from the Hornets, I want to say, since the beginning of the season. And a lot of it is basically self-inflicted injury. A lot of this could have been prevented had they been like, yo, look, they'll be back when they'll be back. 4 to 6 weeks standard on it. And instead of trying to tease this along, because unfortunately, that fan frustration at some point, I was just basically, especially last week, I was like, yo, when he's back, just start telling people when he's back, he's back. Don't say he's close, because all you're doing is making it worse at this point.
No, and you're right about that. But what I'll say, yes, the messaging is poor. I don't know if that means play LaMelo even if he's not ready. But you're right. They did do this to themselves as far as the messaging goes, because I do think it was poor based off of the initial prognosis and not letting us know, and then following up that with they're close, and LaMelo specifically, that he's close. Okay, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
It's the debut of Chance or Nata Chance, and we throw a whole bunch of situations at Nata where he describes if he thinks they could happen or if there's no way in hell that they could happen. But this episode is brought to you by Sweat Block. Nata knows about Sweat Block. He remembers making some reads for our buddies at Sweat Block. They're a fantastic product, and I'll tell you, I have Sweat Block. It works great. And then when I went to a couple of weddings this weekend, the whole white shirt thing, especially when you got to put on the jacket, it was semi-formal. So I put that on. It's getting a little hot. And then when you're wearing the white shirt, the button up, not exactly the thickest of material, I needed some Sweat Block to make sure that I was not going to embarrass myself at the wedding. And it worked, because Sweat Block is guaranteed to work. Yes, Sweat Block wipes were invented by a doctor, and they're guaranteed to work for you, or you don't have to pay. They call it the Sweat Block Dry Shirt Guarantee. If Sweat Block does not keep you dry, you get your money back. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block risk-free today. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. Also, this episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Are you wasting money on subscriptions? 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Maybe for you, it's an unused Amazon Prime account or a Hulu account that never gets streamed. There's this great app you can use that helps you track all of your expenses. And because of it, you don't have to waste money on subscription you don't even use anymore. You might have heard of it. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. It's the app that shows you all your subscriptions in one place, and they cancel what you don't want for you anymore. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. You may even find out you've been double charged for a subscription in that process. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Chance or not a chance, coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
To start this off, we all know about LeBron and how he built a school and it got a lot of fanfare. By the time 2019 closes, Bismack Biyombo is planning to have 6 schools.
Take that, LeBron.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen today. Make your next listen Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. So I'm not going to please the tease here. We're going to do Nata Chance in the third segment, because that's what I want to do to finish up. I want to tie a nice little bow on this show with the new debut game, because also I think this could tie in to the game we're going to play later on. And it's the PJ Washington conversation, because PJ got off to a fantastic start. I mean, we were all kind of wondering, hey, maybe they should have just gone ahead and took care of this extension for PJ, given that he's scoring 31 against Golden State, given that he was scoring 28 points against Sacramento. Those were two of his highest scoring totals since he's been in the league, really. And the 40-point game that he had against Sacramento a couple of years back, that's his absolute career high, but certainly not performing to that consistent level that he was at the beginning. Well, since then, it's kind of taken a dip. He was giving you a couple 10-pointers, I think single-digit outputs as well, as I pull up his game log here recently. Yeah, he had 10 points, 9 points, 4 points against Portland, and in the two games against Miami. Now, last night in this win against Orlando, he was 6 of 13, missed all of his three-point shots, did have 5 assists and 6 rebounds, 14 points for PJ in this one. But the real news here is that Michael Scotto reported that the Hornets and PJ were discussing a 4-year extension at $12.5 million per year, but PJ declined because he was seeking something closer to $20 million per year. So let's give a sneak peek of Chance or not a chance. Nata, do you think that he does have a shot to get to $20 million per season?
Zero chance. Brendan Clark basically screwed him off, taking that 4 for 52 deal. There's not a chance, no chance whatsoever of him ever getting to 20 million. Is he going to get to 16, 18? Possibly. But at this point, the way the market's going to set out for him, he's going to be lucky to get that 16 to 18. And that's if he's more consistent on a game-to-game basis at this point.
Doug, I know you're not really feeling it with the emoji that you have on the rundown today, the throw-up face for PJ 20 million.
Oh no, that's not the throw-up. That's not the throw-up face. That's the
what is it?
money.
Is that the stick face?
It's the money sign, the $2 signs on the eyes, and then the dollar sign. That's sticking out of
I thought it was the throw-up face this whole time. Goodness gracious! I thought you had a very different reaction to PJ asking for 20.
No, listen, I'm not gonna get on anyone for asking for betting on themselves, for saying, hey, I deserve this amount of money. I mean, props to PJ for saying this is what I deserve. Now, but you have to go out and show it, right? And right now, you look at his points per shot attempt for the season so far, early in the season, but it's near the bottom of the league in terms of his position. Same with rebounding, steal percentage, and block percentages are both below average. Like he's not playing at a $20 million level. And if you go and look at the rookie scale extensions that were signed, you mentioned Nata, the Brandon Clark extension, which we all thought, when Brandon Clark signed that, it's like, yeah, that seems like a fair market value for PJ Washington. The team obviously thought that as well. But Keldon Johnson got $74 million from the Spurs. DeAndre Hunter got $90 million. RJ Barrett got $107 million. And honestly, you look at Keldon Johnson's numbers, like PJ's not playing better than Keldon Johnson for the Spurs. Now, different opportunity, but he's not playing as well as Keldon Johnson. He's probably not playing at a $20 million level. But what I think he's betting on is that if he does improve his game, that some team in the offseason will look and say, well, okay, $20 million is not going to be all that much money. It's going to be like mid-level exception dollars, or maybe a little bit above mid-level exception dollars once the new TV deal is signed. So yeah, I'll go ahead and roll the dice and take a chance and get PJ Washington at, 18, 19, $20 million. That's probably what he's betting on, but he's got to improve his play.
Yeah, no, he does here lately. And the thing is, if you want to split this up into two halves of the season, just really for simplicity's sake, October and November. October, he was playing like that. I mean, his percentages, his efficiency, they were very good. We know about his defensive efforts. That was when he was able to put up the 31, 28-point performance. But in November, he's shooting 38% from the field. He's shooting 23 really percent from three. And that's the thing that's really hurting him here recently. For me, look, I think it comes down to PJ being in an acceptable role for what we expect from him offensively, because right now he's being asked to do a lot. And if you look back at last year, he had never had that few amount of shot attempts per game, and his efficiency went way up, like 60% in the 2-point percentage, which remember how much he struggled a sophomore year. Like that was the biggest complaint about him, was that he couldn't finish. He shot 48 and then it went all the way up to 60 and his shot, and then his attempts went down. So there has to be some kind of happy medium, right? He's taking 13 shot attempts per game. That's 3 more than his career highs. He had about 10 for a couple of the first seasons that he played. So can we get to, I don't know, 11? Okay, maybe even just go down a little bit with the better shots. But remember at the beginning of the season too, PJ gave you like some step back threes, some pull up threes. I mean, he was trying to add a lot more to his game. At first he was hitting, and now it just hasn't necessarily come about that way. So for me, I think it's all about, it's fun to experiment. You have to figure out what kind of player you can be. And that's something that PJ has been doing for quite some time. But in reality, you pay him based off of the player that you think he can be at an efficient level, which to me is, I mean, I think ceiling PJ is averaging 15 points on 40% shooting from 3 and like 55 to 60% from 2, which that's like ceiling for me for PJ on a consistent basis, right? And to me, especially as everybody brings up the salary rising for the NBA, you know, 20 is probably a little too high right now, but I mean, I could see him getting 20 and you say be lucky to get to 16 or 18. Not at the end of the day, I do think he reaches 16 to 18 mil a year.
I see. The only reason I don't think he reaches 16 to 18 is who's paying him next year. Like the free agent crop isn't that great to where.
Doesn't that help PJ though?
Yeah,
a little bit, but at the same time, I'm not sure there's going to be that many teams with money. Like this may end up being one of those situations where he might have to take less. And even then, I would throw this at you. Would you rather stick with PJ, or are you keeping Jalen McDaniels, who's also a free agent at the end of the year? Because at this point, the way they're playing, it may be Jalen McDaniels over PJ for me right now.
Well, a final thing I want to say is I'm just glad that the organization stuck to their situation here and said, all right, this is what we were going to offer you. We think it's fair. It's Brandon Clark level value. We feel like that's a good deal, and they stuck to it and didn't hamstring their future cap sheet with a $20 million albatross because you just didn't know which way PJ was going to go. I don't think there was any indication that PJ was due for a leap. And so far has not leapt. He leapt a little bit, a little mini leap. There's still a lot of season to play. Maybe he turns it all around. But so far, they're looking really smart for not taking that deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, $12.5 million. There's just no way PJ was going to agree to that. Like I know about the Brandon Clark thing. What was Brandon Clark, 13 a year?
13,
you know,
yep.
I mean,
like 4 years, 50. It would have been the same. They were offering PJ, according to this report, 4 years, 50 or 4 years, 52. Brandon's 4 years, 50.
Yeah, so I just don't think there was any way PJ was going to agree to that, which is fine. So maybe, yeah, that happens all the time in the NBA. You're just not going to agree to an extension before somebody hits free agency or restricted free agency. So, yeah, I mean, PJ, it'll be an interesting year, but there's a lot of basketball to be played. And at the beginning, like I thought it was a little bit more than a mini leap, you know, with 28, 30, you know, now even a 25 in the month of October. You know, that's rare for PJ last year. I mean, he scored like 22 at his highest. So it's fine for the Hornets to do that preseason, but man, it'll be fascinating, to be honest with you, to watch the rest of the way for one PJ Washington. Okay, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Now I promise you we will play Chance or Not a Chance a little bit more extensively, maybe make it a little more rapid fire. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks allows you to pick up to 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times on your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes the NBA, the NFL, PGA, college football, baseball, men's and women's college basketball, the WNBA, esports, NASCAR, disc golf, Euro basketball. There's so much more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. You have safe and fast withdrawals, and they are currently operational in over 30 states and even Canada. You can download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks gives you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks gives you $50. You know the idea by now. You don't have to forget, don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit matchup to $100. Chance or not a chance? Coming up next
is Locked On Hornets.
All right, so we've got Al, or we've got the question how. Like, how did Miles do that? Can you help us end this debate with so much, an unbelievable amount on the line?
Doug, I respect you to the nth degree, but Walker, I'm telling you, every single person who saw that reacted that way. Some of us just were tighter than others, and I just had to release this from my body.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Our buddy Eric Collins. Eric, you were great on the call last night, just like always. I love listening to you.
Didn't hear it.
No, it was great. I heard some highlights, like maybe 2 or 3 on Twitter. All right, let's go to Nata. Let's play this game. Something that Doug came up with. Doug, is it pretty self-explanatory? We just throw it to Nata, some of these situations, and see if it actually has a shot of happening or not?
That's right. Boy. Chance or not a chance. It's the game that is sweeping Charlotte Hornets Nation. We ask Nata if something will happen or not happen. Pretty simple. Is there a chance of it happening? 1%. Is there 1% chance that this thing happens, or is there not a chance it happens?
This is going to blow up my mentions in a spectacularly
We'll see what you're
Anything
saying.
you do, that's what you do. That is your existence, Nata Edwards. Okay, Doug, why don't you throw the first one at him?
Let's start with the person that we always have to start with. Lead with LaMelo Ball. Okay, we already talked about it. He was on the bench. The camera caught him messing with that ankle in a very similar way that he still to this day messes with his wrist that he injured. So my first question is, LaMelo Ball misses more time due to his ankle injury. Chance or not a chance?
In the interest of my mentions, I'm going to say not a chance.
Protecting your menchies. So that really means you think there's a chance. You really, in your heart of hearts, think there's a chance. You're just protecting your menchies.
Well, the thing is, I think that's fair, though, right? Like, I don't know. I hope your mentions aren't going to be destroyed. You know, I mean, if it's bothering him and he might need a couple more games just to sit out on it if it's starting to flare up, goodness gracious. Like, I don't want the Hornets to do that, or to keep throwing him out there if there really is a problem with his ankle that might even get worse. But, Doug, you don't see it that way? You think there's not a chance?
You know, honestly, I mean, I think it's all part of this process. I mean, I think it is stiffening up on him a little bit, but I think they're going to work it out. I think they're going to manage it. I don't think that they would have risked a re-injury. I mean, I think that's why he spent a little bit more time out than we thought he was going to, because they were really waiting until he was game ready. And I think he's game ready. Like, when he's out on the floor, I don't see it really affecting his game all that much. I think the shot is just rust. Walker, you and I are not like, we don't have medical degrees. We don't know exactly how that ankle is like affecting his shot. You say it is, I say it isn't. It's going to be tough to say. But go ahead.
Oh, that's my fault.
No, you clearly have something to say. Go ahead.
God forbid someone interrupts somebody on this podcast. I would hate for that to happen. But what I would say is, LaMelo Nata is a benefit for our team. But I was going to say that LaMelo is clearly a benefit when out there on the floor. I mean, I don't want to get it twisted. Like, LaMelo is helping the Hornets. That's the thing. I just hope that they're not rushing him. But I think you're right.
Here's the good news. Teo Maledon is out there throwing no-look passes to Mason Plumlee.
He played well.
A little no-looky cookie for Mason Plumlee. Didn't Maled know that was in his bag? Oh my goodness.
Wow.
All right, go ahead, Walker. Next one.
Okay, the next one that we have, do you want to go LaMelo again? Sure, we'll go LaMelo again. Because of some of the time that he's missed, do you think that LaMelo makes the All-Star team? When it comes to that, is there a chance or not a chance?
There's a chance. It's a very slim chance. It's skinnier than you, Walker, but there is a chance.
Look, I'm skinny fat, to be honest with you. So yeah, it can be a little bit slimmer than me. Although I don't know if it can be skinnier than my arms, my noodle arms that are the chicken wings that we've talked about. Yeah, I think there's a chance too. LaMelo can explode, and that would be the shot here, right? But still, lots of talent came over to the Eastern Conference. Lots of talent is developing in the Eastern Conference. There are teams that are playing better than expected in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, it's going to be really tough. But the chance is that LaMelo figures it out very quickly and just goes nuclear and maybe even helps the Hornets on this winning streak that gets some national attention. I think that's the way that he makes it.
Yeah, I mean, a nice performance against Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers at home, I think, would be a good first step in that direction.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. All right, Doug, you feed him the next one.
Oh, well, here's something interesting from the box score in terms of minutes played, and that's James Booknight only getting 3 minutes, 44 seconds. He was 0 for 1, and that was really the only thing in the stat line for James Booknight. So my question to you, Nata, is James Booknight becomes a 10-plus minute part of the rotation once Gordon Hayward and Martin return, one or both. Once they return, does he become a 10-minute plus part of the rotation? Chance or not a chance?
Oh, not a chance. No, like I think he's done for.
I don't have any imaging. I don't have any imaging for this, but I will someday. So I'm just going to go boom.
It felt like an imaging answer right there.
That chance is gone. That chance is. He's gotten enough time to where you kind of figure he needs a lot of seasoning, and he just needs to be out of Charlotte for quite a while. Put him in Greensboro. Let him stay there. Let him come back and practice with the team. But for right now, he can't be there. Maladone's passed him. This man got 3 minutes and 44 seconds of time with DSJ hurt. What happens when DSJ comes back? There's no chance of him. No, we're done. Like the Booknight thing is done until New Year's at least.
Man, speaking of chances, like James Booknight got a lot of them. Like I don't. When they drafted him, no, he was not my highest prospect, but I mean, there was stuff to like getting to the rim. I mean, we know the pre-draft process for Booknight. Man, he played 17 minutes per game in November. He's played 19, and that's even including the 4-minute performance that he had against Orlando. He's played 19 minutes per game in the month of November, October 17, November 18, and it just hasn't worked out for him. I hate it, but James Booknight is not playing very well. And when you have
among wings in the NBA,
here we go.
He is dead last in points per shot attempt. And you thought last season that the problem for Booknight was that Borrego was didn't believe in him, didn't give him the opportunity. Even before this season started, Clifford was hyping James Booknight, was giving him that belief, giving him that promise. And even playing him through all of the off-court issues, and just simply did not take advantage of this opportunity. I mean, there's just no other way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, 15 games, and this is what we've gotten from James Booknight.
I was the guy that believed in him, and that's the thing. That's what hurts. I was the one guy that was championing James Booknight here, and Booknight is making me look bad. And
shout out the other guy from that draft though, Kai Jones, who did get a few minutes in this game.
That's right.
And got a Steve Clifford shout out too, by the way.
He
got a Steve Clifford shout out, classic Steve Clifford shout out in the post game, and he got it because Mason had 3 fouls, because Nick had 3 fouls, and Orlando can play like 3 7-footers at the same time and not be hurt somehow. There's some wizard. It's not wizardry. It's Bo. It's the guy that I believed in since draft day. Bo. I am finally vindicated. See, I'm always vindicated. I'm just not immediately vindicated, but I'm always vindicated. So,
that's nice.
Anyway, but this is not about me. This is not about me. This is about Kai Jones. He was great at the rim. Got a block shot immediately, just immediate impact, and he's playing Clifford-style ball. And I think, look, all I'm going to say, Nick Richards, better stay healthy. Mason Plumlee, better stay healthy, because Kai Jones, he's sitting right there, and he's hungry.
It's yeah. Also, I mean, he played 2 minutes, but yes, you're right. I mean, Kai Jones did get the shout out, and Kai Jones did have a block. Yes, but he's starving, man. He's absolutely, he is 100% hungry. Let's go 2 rapid fire ones because I do want to ask you these before we got you out of here, Nata. Gordon Hayward plays in 50 games for the Hornets. Chance or not a chance?
Wow, it's
a good over under.
Oh, that's a tough over-under. He hasn't played over 47 for the Hornets yet, so I'm going to say not a chance.
Ooh, like boom, not a chance.
Like I feel like the math just works out for this. Like the law of averages. He played 47. I think he played 47 in the first season here. He played 44 last year. If we're expecting him to play 50, I think that's a pipe dream, quite honestly.
No, it's a good point. The fact that it's never happened before, no, that's a pretty good piece of evidence in your opinion by saying not a chance. Last one, I would say you're probably going to go not a chance here, given the conversation we had about Kai Jones' hunger. But Mark Williams, at some point this year, becomes a part of the rotation. Chance or not chance?
Before you answer that, we should say I put this in the rundown because Mark Williams is doing some stunning stuff in Greensboro. I mean, he's hitting, he's hitting like game tying 3-point shots. He's putting up huge numbers.
Sir,
what?
We've seen this before. We've seen like people do stunning stuff. We've seen Dwayne Bacon score 50
I thought
points.
About
you know what's before you answer, because it's going to take us out of the show, and I want to make sure that I get this in. Is it weird that every time Steve Clifford is asked about Mark Williams, he mentions 3-point shooting?
Yes.
Like it's just like every single, it's like he's sending some kind of message out into the world with this, that he mentions it every single time. And I think that message is he better learn how to 3-point shoot, because otherwise I don't know how I'm going to play him.
There's that. And then there's also the fact that we all know Steve Clifford's got a boss. And the boss might want to be like, yo, this is something we want him to do. This is something we want him to emphasize. This is something we know we want Nick Friedman and Bruce to work with him on. So, yeah, they're probably going to highlight that portion of it.
It's indicating that Nick Richards is probably never going to be able to shoot threes. And obviously Mason Plumlee won't, left-handed or right-handed. So they've got to have at least one big that can do what Mark Williams can do and shoot, because Kai Jones, can block shots. Maybe he's good on the boards. We don't know if he can shoot. They got to get one of these bigs who can shoot. Anyway, chance or no chance? Is he part of the rotation?
There's a chance only because of injuries. And that's the only way I'd say it. Because if Mason Plumlee goes down for a little bit, or Nick Richards goes down for a little bit, or maybe even a trade, who knows? Like, there's a chance this year. I would just consider it one of those really skinny Emily Ratajkowski, like, again, that's one of those chances. Like
noodle arm chance.
Little noodle arm chance.
Walker Mail noodle arm chance.
Exactly. Noodle arm chance.
It almost feels like it's a race between Kai Jones figuring it out on defense and Mark Williams figuring it out from the 3-point line. Whoever figures their thing out first will be the next big guy to enter the rotation for one Steve Clifford. All right, that's Nata Edwards. Find him on Twitter at Nata the Scribe, Ion College Basketball Podcast, the man that runs everything over there. Nata, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
As always, man, see y'all in 2 weeks.
Appreciate you guys for making us your first listen today. Again, for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.